Welcome back to the second day session. I hope you had an opportunity to practice meditation at least once yesterday. If you did not get a chance for whatever reason, that's fine. Try to practice it at least once today. So why don't we start that practice right away? So today we will be learning about this age-old question, who am I, from the perspective of Rajyoga meditation. Let's start with a few minutes meditation. Sit straight, have your back well supported, both feet firmly on the ground. Don't fold your arms. If you're comfortable with open eyes, keep your eyes open. But if you're more comfortable closing your eyes, you can close your eyes. Gently bring your attention back to the room where you are. And if you are closing your eyes, gently open them. So let's start today's session. Let me just review for those of you who joined for the first time today and those of you who are rejoining what we discussed yesterday. We said meditation helps you to think less, to think slow, and to think better. We also discussed what are the prerequisites for meditation. You might want to recall, we talked about 5 prerequisites, each one starting with a P. So the first one was pyar, that is love, self-love and self-compassion. Patience, as we move ahead on this journey, or while we start this journey, it's very important that we be patient with ourselves and not rush things and be impatient. Positive self-reflection. Practice, very important. Just listening is not sufficient. The more you practice, the easier it becomes for you to manage your mind and experience that inner stillness. Don't give up easily. You can do it. What is required is little more time for yourself. Meditation is one thing, unfortunately, for many of us, we are never taught. We are never taught the technique of controlling the mind, even though that is the most important element to remain calm in today's chaotic world. Because of that lack of practice, it will take a little longer for some of us to start understanding and mastering this technique. But once you do it, the return is going to be thousands of times more than the effort you are putting in. So please don't give up. We also discussed about the 4+1 framework of Rajyoga. Gyan, that is to know. Yog, to reflect. Hope you had an opportunity opportunity to reflect on what we discussed yesterday. And dharana is to do what elements of what we are learning today can we actually implement. We will start learning those from today. Seva is to share. And of course, the last one, the Swarup, is to become the best that we can become. We will keep revisiting these 5 elements as we move ahead through the course. There are certain themes, certain points which we will keep revisiting. One of those is this 4+1 framework. Good. So Rohit, you can unmute. What do you see in this picture? Go ahead and speak up. So, yeah. So what are you seeing on this picture? Go ahead.
Eagle is spraying the birds.
Okay. Okay. What else? Okay. Very good.
It is near to water, sea or
Near
something.
water, sea or some. Very good. What are these?
Lot of birds at spray.
Lot of birds at the background. Very good. What are these?
Grass is also there. There is a grass.
Grass is also there. Very good. And these are 2 legs. Yes.
Very alert bird.
Very alert bird. And then it's holding something. Correct?
Holding something.
Holding something. Yes. Very good.
I think it's a huge bird.
Huge bird. Yes. Very big. Because if it is an island, then either it's a close-up shot or it's a huge bird. I agree. Now,
He's
I
thinking
think near the
something.
sea.
near the sea. Very good. Near the sea. Now, tell me what you see in this picture.
It is a tree.
Yes.
I don't have another picture. Yes, I got it.
A fish.
Yes, you see a fish, you see a couple of trees. What else?
Boat person, boat
You
खुश
see
हो
a
रहे हैं.
boat.
The picture is inverted. Baby.
We see the inverted form of an eagle.
Yes.
What do you see in this picture? You
Person in
tell
a
me.
boat.
Person
Inverted
in a
form.
boat. Very good.
There is a fish.
What is
There
this?
is a
It's
Very good.
inverted eagle. It's an inverted
So,
eagle.
Looking at his reflection.
Inverted picture of the
Inverted eagle with the
Inverted eagle.
we see trees. Very good. What are these now?
grass.
there is a person in a boat and there is a fish.
Correct.
Person.
See a fish. Now, my question to you is there a fish here?
Yeah.
No.
no.
Is there a bird here?
Yes.
Oh no.
Yes,
No.
there is.
Is there a boat here?
No,
No.
sir.
Is there a beak here?
No.
Yes. Yes. It's a inverted bird
See,
with the.
Sir, see, both of
when you
same.
just see this,
Both of same.
Inverted
Both
boat
of
is
same.
there.
yeah,
Same
the
picture.
principle we are getting confused. Okay, good. Thank you. The important insight for today's session is when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. Exactly the same picture when I placed it in this form, you were seeing a bird, you were seeing 2 legs, you were seeing water and birds in the background. But when exactly same picture, not a pixel changed, but when I changed the way I am looking at the picture by inverting it, I started seeing a fish, I started seeing a boat, I started seeing trees. Exactly the same picture. When I change the way I look at things, the things I look at change. This is a very, very important principle that we are learning today as a part of Raj Yoga meditation, which is helpful for us even in our life. What Raj Yoga helps us is it does not change the picture, but it helps us to see exactly the same picture, that is ourselves and our life, from a totally different perspective. That is the key insight from Raj Yoga. Now let's move forward and then see how the change in perspective is also going to change our experience. Let me share with you a small example. It might be a little controversial for some of you, but just bear with me. So how our perspective or what we believe impacts what we experience. Science says, this is what we all learned in the school. Our ancestors were like this. But religion says, our ancestors were like this. Now, that's a question of belief. It's not about being right or wrong. We are not discussing about right or wrong elements. We are only talking about what happens to our experience when we take up a certain belief. If I believe that I am fundamentally an ape with basal instincts and my nature is to fight and win, for it will be the survival of the fittest, then my behavior or my experience will be, but in order to get along with others, I must suppress these basal emotions. Where does this come from? This comes from a particular perspective of how you look at yourself. Instead, if I change my perspective and start looking at myself as I am fundamentally divine and my nature is peace, love, and joy, then my behavior or my experiences, then I feel I must emerge and express these latent qualities through introspection and meditation. Depending on how I view myself, I emerge those set of qualities from within me. If I view myself as an ape, I will consider those ape-like qualities as natural in me. If I view myself as someone who is divine, I will consider those divine qualities as natural in me. When I change the way I look at things, the things I look at change. A very simple equation. My behavior is a function of my beliefs. If I want to change my behavior, I must learn to change my underlying beliefs. That is why most of the self-development trainings do not succeed or they are short-lived, because they try to change the behavior superficially without changing the underlying belief. There are many HR professionals in today's group. This is something for them to reflect. But what Raj Yoga helps us is Raj Yoga provides us a set of alternate beliefs to view ourselves, to view the world, to view our relationships, so that our understanding and our relationship and our experience transforms. The world will not change, but what changes is the internal circuitry with which I process exactly the same information. The information that I am getting in remains the same, but how I process it changes my experience. That processing circuitry is what Rajyoga helps replace with an alternate set of beliefs, with an alternate set of viewpoints that are more empowering and more divine. And one such fundamental belief of Rajyoga, one of the first beliefs is Aham Atma Mama Shariram. That is, I am the soul, this is my body. I am not this body, but I am the soul, this is my body. I am very careful in saying, because I do not want to get into any philosophical discussions or any arguments saying that can you prove where the soul is, how the soul is, where is it written, which experiments talks about it. I will not go into those details. As we move forward, I will not argue. But what I encourage you, as we discussed in some of the guidelines for meditation, be open and test yourself, check yourself. If I start adopting this alternate beliefs, what kind of impact it is going to generate in my life? A quarter century ago, when I came in contact with Brahma Kumaris, when I started exploring this alternate belief system, of which the first belief I have presented in front of you, I started finding it very, very empowering. And this one belief is what we will explore over the course of next 3 days. That I am the soul, this is my body. This is the first lesson of Rajyoga. That you are a soul, a conscient point of light, situated in the middle of the forehead. And you are not this body. Very, very important and very, very profound lesson that is going to fundamentally transform the way we look at ourselves and the way we look at the world. And how is that going to transform? We will go through that journey over the next few days. The relationship between soul and body is like the relationship between the pearl and shell, like a driver and a car. A house and its owner. Just because it is invisible does not mean it is not there. Just because the car is visible does not mean I am that car. I am the driver. And intuitively, we all can experience this. For those of you who have read Bhagavad Gita, there's a very nice shloka from chapter 2 or verse 23 or second adhyaya and 23rd shloka talks about what are the qualities of the soul. It says, Nainam chidanti shastrani. That means any weapon cannot cut the soul. Nainam dahati pavakaha. Soul cannot be burned by fire. Na chainam kledayantyapo. Apaha means water. That which cannot be made wet by water. Na shoshayati marutaha. That which cannot be blown away. Marutaha means wind. That's what you're seeing here represented. Because soul is eternal. It neither takes birth nor is dead. It is always present. What I consider as birth is soul entering this body for this life. As I said, once you start adopting this belief that I am a soul, I am not this body, there is a lot of profound insights you will start getting, and that fundamentally transforms your perspective. And that transformation in internal perspective is what we are targeting. The soul is eternal. And the most important for our conversation, soul is the master of the body. That is, I am the controller of these 5 sense organs. It's very subtle but very important. When I remind myself about my capability to control my senses, my ability to control my senses increases. I'll repeat again. When I remind myself about my capability to control my senses, and thus my mind, my ability to control my senses increases. Just this shift in my perspective that I am not the slave of my senses, I am the master. I can control my senses, starts making a huge difference in terms of how we start behaving with ourselves. When I change the way I look at things, the things I look at change. And what are the 3 important faculties or powers or capabilities of soul? Mind, intellect, and sanskar. That is, soul is able to think. We are all able to think. And that ability is what we call as mind. Soul is able to decide because I am able to decide, and that ability is called intellect. And I am a creature of my habits, as it is said. And those habits, those deep-rooted impressions that are there inside the soul, not only from this birth, from various births, is what we call as sanskars. Or this is the record of all the past capabilities that we picked up over the journey of many lives. And that is what we call as sanskars. And by reminding ourselves that I am the master of my mind, my ability to manage my mind starts increasing. Because now my relationship with my mind is not that of controlled, but of a controller. Where I am the master, it is my ability to think, I am the creator, I can start managing my mind. And we will explore the relationship between these 3 capabilities as we move forward. And if you recall the 4+1 framework, Gyan is to know. As a part of Rajyoga, you will be given or you will be introduced to whole new world of knowledge, which you may or may not be familiar with. So that is the first step. We are in that first step to know. But before you start implementing, there is a second step of yoga. We would encourage you to explore, experiment, and reflect on this new knowledge. Because it's very, very important that you sit back, reflect on this Gyan so that you can translate a portions of that knowledge into your daily life. And how to do it, what aspects to translate, that is what we will learn as we move forward in the next few days. And what are innate qualities of the soul? You see them here. We will keep coming back to this picture, coming back to this perspective. Purity, bliss, knowledge, power, peace, happiness, and love. These are the innate qualities of myself, of the soul. Now, what is the difference between innate and acquired? That's the question you might get. Innate qualities are those which when I am experiencing, I am at home with myself. That is, I am at the most relaxed and stable state when I am experiencing these innate qualities. But when I am experiencing acquired qualities, because for most of us, we are taught as a kid that to get angry is natural. It's not natural. The way you can check whether it is natural or unnatural, whether it is innate or acquired, is anything that is acquired will make you uncomfortable, will not help you experience that contentment, that peace, that love, that stability. For that moment when you are angry, when you blurt out something, and then you feel you have retaliated to the other person, what happens to your state? Once you finish anger, if anger were your natural state, then you should always be angry. But that's not the case. For that moment, from that stimulus, we get angry, but we would want to come back to our natural state of peace. That is why for some of us, when we do overthinking, when a lot of thoughts keep coming up, when we are anxious, we are not at home with ourselves. We don't feel comfortable. There is a lot of discomfort which the soul feels, which I feel when I am experiencing these acquired external qualities which don't belong to me. But when I am experiencing these innate qualities of the self, of my soul, I am the most comfortable. That is the difference between innate qualities of the self and the acquired qualities of the self. Knowledge, when I acquire, when I start learning, I feel empowered, I feel motivated, because to learn, to grow is the innate quality of the soul. Power is not the kind of power that we see in the external world that strokes our ego. Here, when we talk about power, we are talking about our ability to manage ourselves and our ability to control our five senses so that they don't take me away, me the soul, away from me experiencing my innate qualities. We are talking about that power. And what exactly is power? How do we translate it? What do we call as a spiritual power? We will explore that as we move forward in this course. Peace. Almost all of us, this is what we want. We do not want to be in a disturbed state. We do not want to be in a state of anxiety. We want to be peaceful, because a calm mind is a wellspring of concentration. Now go back and then look at those three principles, or the three results, or the three means of meditation. Think less, think slow, think better. Rajyoga provides us a beautiful path. By transforming our thinking, our experience changes and it starts becoming more peaceful. Happiness. Who doesn't want to be happy? Who amongst you wants to always keep sulking and always want to be unhappy, as if unhappiness is your birthright? No. Each one of us wants to be happy, wants to be joyful. Why? Why is it that every single person on earth, whether they are educated or not, whether they come from jungles of Africa or from the deserts of Middle East or from the fertile lands of Bharat or anywhere else for that matter, from a cold country or from a hot country, why is it that each one of us wants to be peaceful? Why is it each one of us wants to be happy? Why is it we want to be loved and we want to love? And why is it each one of us, or I would say most of us, are interested in learning something new? That which is common amongst all of us is that each one of us is a soul. And all of us, irrespective of our background, we would want to experience these qualities because this is what makes me feel good about myself, because these are my innate qualities. That is why, whether they are educated or uneducated, whether they speak one language or some other language, all of them, whether they know that they are the soul or not, still, because fundamentally each one of us is that conscient being of light, and these are innate qualities, we get attracted to these qualities. Now is a question I would encourage you to reflect upon. Starting today, how would you want to see yourself as? See yourself as an ape or as a descendant of ape, or see yourself as a soul endowed with all these positive qualities. Because as we discussed, your experience depends on your perspective. When I change the way I look at things, the things I look at change. When I start experiencing myself as the soul, and when I start looking at the other person also as a soul, I start fundamentally shifting my perspective from looking at myself as, instead of looking at myself as a bag of weaknesses, I will start looking at myself as a bundle of virtues and powers. Very important. I am not a bag of weaknesses, but I am a bundle of virtues. So when I change the way I look at things, the things I look at start changing. When I start changing the way I look at myself, because the other person is also soul, I start looking at that other person as a bundle of potential. Now, this has a profound impact if you are a leader in terms of your training and L&D initiatives and the way you are going to relate with your team. There are two ways you can look at the person in front of you. This person is untrained. This person does not know anything. This person is just a little more than the beast from whom he comes from or she comes from. Or I can look at that person and say, this person is potentially divine. This person is a bundle of powers, potential that needs to be explored. See the difference it makes to your effort. And what is meditation? Yet another definition. Meditation is an opportunity for you to experience your own inner beauty. Again, this is where that 4+1 framework once again comes in. Now, through this Gyan, I came to know that I am an embodiment of these virtues. And when I start reflecting on these virtues, that is what becomes my experience. And that is how meditation helps me to think less, to think slow, to think better. Because what I am focusing on has undergone a subtle shift. Instead of focusing on my weaknesses, now I am started focusing on my strengths, on my qualities. So this fundamental shift of leading my life from a position of strength rather than from a position of weakness is what Rajyoga brings about. And now you see how profound this first belief is. Aham Atma Mama Shariram. And when I start reflecting on these qualities in my meditation, that is when I start feeling empowered. That is when I start feeling more and more powerful. And that is when I will start dipping into the fountain of inner beauty that is already there inside me. Until today, it has been corked tightly because I was never told that I had all these jewels inside me. That is why I was searching for them outside. Now, what Rajyoga does, it will subtly shift that your view from outside to inside. That is what spirituality is all about. Look within. You must have heard that many number of times, and some of you might have got frustrated or confused with that. What does this thing called look within mean? When I open my eyes, I look outside, but how do I look within? This is the process. And meditation is that process of looking within and experiencing my own beauty. So instead of looking outside for peace, I start reflecting, because peace is my natural state of being. How can I remain peaceful? You're only going back to your original state. Peace is not something acquired. Very important. And when I start looking at myself as the soul and not this body, that thinking, that perspective is what we call as soul consciousness. So when I start with this belief that I am the soul and not this body, then my behavior starts changing. And that way of looking at the world with experiencing myself as the soul is what we call as soul consciousness. When I am body conscious, I compare, because for me today, my position, my role, my name, my fame become important. But when I start looking myself as a soul endowed with all these qualities, I start becoming more and more accepting. And another beautiful thing about soul consciousness is, because of our past sanskars accumulated over the course of many births, including this birth, I am unique. I can never compare with myself, me with somebody else, because we will never be same. And here I would like to bring about a very subtle but very important difference. We are all equal, but we are not same. We are equal and different. Let's acknowledge that. And because we are IT professionals, let me use another terminology which will help you understand. This uniqueness or these differences, these are not bugs, these are features. My uniqueness is my feature. The other person being different from me, the other person thinking different from me, the other person having an opinion different from me is a feature. It's not a bug. So let's not try to fix a feature, because that is what we try to do in our life. Because a feature is a part of the system. It is unfixable. That is how the system is going to work. That is the acceptance that comes from soul consciousness. I am not saying we have to agree. I'm only saying we accept. That is, I start respecting your opinion as much as I respect my opinion. That is acceptance. Acceptance is different, agreement is different. And this is something I would like you to sit and reflect upon. Soul consciousness helps me to start accepting these alternatives, because I accept them as features, not as bugs. When I change the way I look at things, the things I look at change. Body consciousness divides, because there are a lot of categories into which you can put these bodies: nationality, color, race, gender, religion, because all these correspond to the body. But as soon as I lift all these false covers that I wear, deep inside, we are all equal. That is, I am a soul, you are a soul. That's it. Even gender doesn't come into the being. And that soul consciousness, because we look for something common, that soul consciousness unites. That is, I'm able to connect with you at the level of you being a soul and me being a soul. When I think I am body, I have to feed myself really interesting things. I have to listen. I have to see something pleasing. I'm not saying we should not do this. There is a difference between we enjoying and experiencing something and we becoming a slave of that thing. So when I consider myself as body, I become a slave of my desires, because for me, I am my five senses. There is nothing beyond these five senses. And my life becomes an opportunity to satisfy the cravings of these five senses. That's it. But when I become soul conscious, I become the master of these senses. And my purpose in life becomes to realize myself, to realize the best that I can become, and to see how best I can share what I have with the world around. That's the difference between body consciousness and soul consciousness. When I think I am this body, naturally, I develop that attachment. I do not want to leave this body. That is where fear of death comes from. But when I see myself as a soul that is eternal, that has neither birth nor death, that means I am always there. I am just changing this body the way I change my clothes. That awareness of eternity makes me fearless. Very profound, very fundamental. And in Rajyoga, there is an interesting saying. Your first lesson starts with knowing, becoming aware that you are a soul. And your last lesson, what we call as a self-realization, it ends with you becoming that soul. That is, you adopting that complete soul consciousness. So now meditation, another definition for meditation is, for those few moments when I sit in meditation, can I start experiencing my soul consciousness? The more I practice, the more I bring in this belief into my behavior, the more powerful I become, the more peaceful I become, and the more loveful and happy I become. Because those innate qualities, they start coming forth into my actions and into my relationships. And we will explore this as we move forward on the fifth day about how thoughts impact our mental and physical health. When I look at myself as the soul, then consider myself as an embodiment of all these positive qualities and virtues, then the emotions I feel will be positive. When I consider myself as a body and I consider myself as a bag of weaknesses, then the emotions I generate most of the time are negative. So what is the impact of these emotions on my health? I'm just going to give you a glimpse. I'm not going to go into the detailed manner. I will consider this 3 days hence. So positive emotions help brain release positive neuropeptides. Negative emotions, brain releases negative neuropeptides. And that is what we call them as endorphins or enkephalins, the feel-good hormones, or steroids and adrenaline, the stress hormones. And the feel-good hormones release healing energy, and the stress hormones release the harmful energy. That promotes health and that promotes disease. Now, who has the switch? I can think positive and I also can think negative. Who is the master? Who has that switch? Brain is a wonderful or the most complicated chemical factory. But what brain does, what chemicals brain releases into the body are governed by me, the soul. If I think positive, then my brain releases feel-good hormones. If I think negative, my brain releases stress hormones. This is how I start becoming the master of my body and my senses. So today, try to be soul conscious for a few moments when you're trying to do your regular work, cooking or any other activity. When you're coming in contact with another person, just for a moment, he or she is also a soul endowed with these positive qualities, and then start your conversation. When you're working, I, the soul, I am engaging these senses and doing my task. And even when you're sleeping today afternoon for your siesta or tonight, it requires practice. So don't get disappointed, don't get frustrated. This is a lifelong practice, as I said. Knowing that I am a soul and realizing that I am a soul, the journey between the two is the whole life. So take one step at a time, be patient, be persistent, and don't be in a hurry. Now, let's sit back and try to reflect on what we learned through a small meditation. Sit straight. Have your back well supported. Don't fold your arms. Don't fold your knees. And if you're comfortable, keep your eyes open. Or if you're not, you can close your eyes.
Om Shanti. We will now experiment with the third exercise, the discovery of the inner being. Sitting quietly, my body calm, relaxed, and still. I turn inwards. I know that my eternal identity is not of my physical costume. My physical body is simply an instrument that I use at this moment for a little while. I would like to find out more about the being that is actually operating this physical instrument. In the quietness, I can feel the source of life shining, radiating light in the center of my forehead. I come back to the identity of my eternal self. This is who I am. And no matter how my body may change, no matter how the circumstances of life may change, no matter how relationships change, or even how the world changes, I am eternally a being of light within all the changing factors of the universe. I am constant. I am point of light with peace, with love within my own being. I am the source of life itself. Turning inwards, and discovering myself, I realize how I had become a stranger to myself. I had forgotten myself, and so I had not been able to love myself. And now, discovering myself, I begin to make friends with myself. I acknowledge the value of my own existence, the beauty of my own being, and in this recognition, I once more begin to love myself and respect myself.
Gently bring your attention to the chair on which you are sitting. So for the next 3 days, what will we be learning? We are going to discuss in detail how to introspect the right way, because meditation is one of the wonderful ways to sit and introspect, to look into ourselves. But how should we do that introspection? We are going to learn that tomorrow. Day after, we will learn how to harness the power of our self-talk. Whether we like it or whether we know it or not, we are constantly speaking with ourselves. So how do we make it more powerful and positive? And what is its impact on our physical and mental health of the self-talk? How to harness its power? We will discuss in detail day after. And on the third day from today, we are going to discuss in detail about the impact of mind on body. That is, what is the impact of positive thoughts on our body? What is the impact of negative thoughts on our body? And what does research in the last 50 years has to tell us about this particular aspect? And a glimpse of it you saw today about how positive emotions promote health and how negative emotions promote disease. And as I said, one half of this course is about exploring that first principle of Rajyoga, Aham Atma Mama Shariram. And all these sessions are opportunities for us to understand ourselves so that we can become the masters of our mind and we can start managing it for better. Hence the tagline, the art and science of managing our mind. And the next half, I will be speaking about the other half of Rajyoga meditation, that is about Param Atma. So we talked about Atma, and once we do this over the next 3 days, we will start talking or learning about Param Atma. For those of you who just joined today, that's the URL where you can access some of these guided commentaries that I am playing. And you have these 3 subfolders. Benefits of meditation gives a lot of articles that you can read. Those of you who are interested in knowing more about the science behind meditation. And if you like simple music, we have a whole lot of nice, very nice instrumental music under the relaxation music album. Good. Thanks for being with me. Thanks for joining us. That's all I have for today. And maybe if we have a few minutes, we can take a few questions. So now let me stop sharing my screen.
Balabhai?
And over to you, Kratibay.
Yeah, Balabhai, before you say goodbye, there is one question asked. Can you please ask Balabhai to reassert capabilities quote he made? You have made a capabilities quote.
Let me recall what I said. When I acknowledge my capabilities, or when I acknowledge my capability to control my senses, then my ability to control my senses increases. Any ability, that is what we call as confidence. Any ability comes when we first acknowledge the capability that we have inside ourselves. I first think I can do this, and then I start doing it. That I can, that thought itself is what I call it as acknowledging the capability. And then implementing it is what we call as putting that ability in practice. I hope that is what the brother or sister wanted. So Kratiban, we can take a few questions. Please go ahead.
Okay, Balabhai. So I will start with the questions. First is, what are the ways to reflect myself?
Once you start listening to the guided commentaries that we have placed in the folder, you will start understanding what are the ways to reflect. and what aspects you should focus on, as we discussed in detail today and as we have been discussing. And tomorrow also we are going to discuss how to do this process of self-reflection. You will start learning that. So please be patient. Meanwhile, as you learn meditation, take the help of those guided commentaries so that slowly you can start experiencing those qualities. And one question that keeps coming up is, what if the people around me are negative? Absolutely. Absolutely. That is what the world is, because they do not have this knowledge. They think they are body. That is why they work from the position of weakness, where they work from the position, or they behave from the position of insecurity and fear. You continue to be positive, you continue to become powerful, then slowly things around you will start changing. Just because they are negative, I don't need to lose my capability, my strength to become positive. So it's very important that you focus on the things that are in your control. And that's another beautiful definition of stress I give for myself. When I try to control things that are not in my control, the result is stress. I'm not saying we should not try to influence. We should always try to influence, but we should not try to control. Because when I try to control things that are not in my control, the result is stress, and stress is not good.
Okay, I hope that answered your question. There's one Behan from Smriti Bhavna who says, can't we sit on floor while meditating, folding our legs?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Another question.
And there's someone asking where he has felt something in the middle of his forehead. Yeah, some of these experiences do happen, but what you should continue to focus on is thinking positive and relaxing yourself, because these are some experiences that we will all experience as we move ahead on the path of our spiritual journey. So it is neither right nor wrong. It is just that it happens sometimes where you start feeling some sensation here in the middle of forehead. Acknowledge it, accept it, move forward.
I would request all participants to not raise their hands and instead send their questions over the chat, because it won't be possible to ask you why you have raised your hand if you have any question. So Balabhai, the next question is introspection through meditation only confined to knowing the self?
No,
or there is any greater meaning to
that is the beginning. That is the beginning.
Okay.
Because one of the definitions of meditation, if you recall from yesterday's session, was meditation is dwelling upon the nature of divine. Meditation is not just understanding one's own spiritual identity, it is also about dwelling upon the nature of divine, the other half of Rajyoga meditation. To dwell upon my relationship with the Supreme, with Paramatma, which we will learn starting 5th day.
Okay, there is one more question, Balabhai. We are not just souls, but we also have roles to play. What should be our approach towards the roles we have to play?
Correct. When you are playing any role, approach it from a position of strength rather than from a position of weakness. Now that you know you are not just limited to your role, but you are a soul, start approaching it from a position of those qualities, from a position of those virtues. Somebody was saying someone's body shakes itself during meditation. As I said, some of these things happen. Acknowledge, don't get scared, continue to practice, all these things will subside.
There's one more question, Balabhai. Some people don't have the natural tendency of calm and patience. We are high on the energy and tend to tiptoe. Would we lose our true self by becoming more calm or being more calm?
No.
Okay.
I am one of those. So trust me, with my experience, and if you meet any of my friends, one of the adjectives that they will talk about me is energy. So you will not lose whatever you feel is yourself. What gets added is, instead of reacting unthinkingly in the past, you are going to respond from a position of calm and peace. When I say calm and peace, it does not mean inactivity. It does not mean weakness. It does not mean me becoming weak. So as you continue to progress, you will start learning these.
One question is, it is not easy when the negativity is shown by your loved ones. How to be in peace in such situations?
We will learn that tomorrow. That is where I said how to do introspection the right way. When we face these situations, how should we handle those? So please hold on to it for a day, and you will start learning some very insightful tools and techniques. Somebody is saying that they see colors when they sit in meditation. Absolutely. As I said, for a mind that is never used to being calm and focused and always engaged in next task, when we start stabilizing ourselves, many things happen. And I'm sharing this with experience. So do not get sidetracked or frustrated. Continue to come back to your focus of reflecting on those positive qualities, experiencing those positive qualities. That is why for all the beginners, we would encourage them to switch on these guided commentaries and then allow your thoughts to go as the speaker suggests, so that it becomes easier and easier for you to experience and calm your mind. And as you keep moving forward, as you keep learning the capability to generate those thoughts yourself, then automatically you can stop listening, or you will stop listening to these guided commentaries.
There's one more question.
Bala I think we can.
It's time.
Yeah.
Okay.
Time, yeah.
So, thank you very much. It's taken a little longer than yesterday. I apologize for taking a little more time, but thank you very much for staying with us. We will once again connect tomorrow at 7:30 a.m. in the same Zoom URL, and we will discuss about how to do the introspection the right way. Thank you. Om Shanti.